Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxy98 here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of my F1 2020 My Team career mode for you guys today here on the channel. So we are back for round number 12, which is the British Grand Prix, and hopefully we could be in for a good weekend. But as you can see, starting things off obviously by filling out the dates for the rest of the time that we've got free. So I decided to go with a sponsor advertisement for the drivers and then a little bit of training for the power unit department. And also, we had our second invitational event for this career mode in this season. Of course, the invitational events this year work slightly differently, whereby if you complete them, you get $150,000 and also you do get 1,000 team acclaim as well. So if you guys are thinking the invitational events are back, they're boring and stupid, trust me guys, do the invitational events. It's really, really worth it this year, unlike it has been in any other previous Formula 1 games. So really happy that they did that. It just makes the classic cars feel a bit more necessary under the career mode points there. But as you can see, we did that, and there you can see is the confirmation of the money and the extra bits of acclaim that we got and all of that. So as we skip forwards onwards, you can see that we're getting ourselves a lot of interesting bonuses and money, and we're also getting some upgrades for this British Grand Prix, which is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, though, we are still third from bottom on the performance comparison chart, but crucially, the gap between me and McLaren, up as the fifth fastest car, is very, very minimal. So, yeah, on that screen, it now says that we're second from bottom, so that's a bit more embarrassing, isn't it? But as you can see, chassis-wise, we're falling off the pace a little bit, so I really want to get that engine cover upgrade on as quick as we possibly can to, again, reduce the weight of the car. So, something that I'm going to be looking to try and invest in. Power unit side of things, we're sort of mid-table here or there. We've got a very good power unit at the back of the car, so I'm not concerned about that. Aerodynamics, again, fourth from bottom. We've got a major upgrade to the front downforce on the way, so I expect that to get onto the car very, very soon. In fact, it says the 20th of July there, to be precise on that one. But if you are new around here and you do end up enjoying today's episode, feel free to not only drop a like on the video, but subscribe if you are not yet subscribed to the channel already, and that goes for everybody, obviously. Not necessarily if you're new. If you just enjoy the video, drop it a like, subscribe, and yeah, we're going to crack on then. We've got 2.85 million as well. Can't remember if I actually made any changes or bought anything for the facilities, but we'll wait and see. I'm having a little nose around. I generally can't remember what I've done during these past episodes because I've recorded them quite far in advance, and in fact, yeah, we do. So we go straight to the chassis and we do a resource points generation build, as now what I'm starting to realize is I'm struggling to build up the resource points per week in order to actually get upgrades on the car. So I'm going to be basically I'm going to try and get everything to level 1, then I'll start, moving to level 2 on a specific department, etc. So that's the plan here. But we're getting into qualifying now for the British Grand Prix, and short, the AIs around Silverstone are absolutely ridiculous. And I don't mean that in a case of they're terrible like they were in Spain, but obviously that was a glitch, I think, anyway. Here at Silverstone, they were impossible to get near. And I don't know why, because I did not change the difficulty. Last week, or my last race at the Austrian Grand Prix, I was racing on 105 AI, and I got through to Q3. Felt really, really comfortable. Here at Silverstone, I actually felt comfortable. This is what felt weird. Again, I ran on 105 AI, and as you'll see in a memento's time, as we get to tier 9, I mean, is the point in ignoring that? I've already bought all the tiers for it, so who cares? As you can see, instead, I didn't get through to Q3. I actually ended up being, here we go, in due time, 3 seconds off the pace. Yeah. And 1.5 seconds off of Jack Aiken, who got through into Q2. Great AI balancing, Codemasters. Just fantastic. How can I go from, I don't know, it's really confusing. I don't know how I can go from racing on 105 AI in Austria to getting into Q3 and being about 6/10 off of pole position to come into Silverstone and being 3 seconds off of pole. It makes absolutely no sense. But of course, I messed up a Q1. Well, I did get through to Q1. Brand new power unit. Let's get to the race and let's see what we can do.
Great Britain then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every single year of the Formula 1 World Championship. And the circuit extends that record further for today's Grand Prix. Silverstone Circuit then. It's 3.6 miles long and has a total of 18 corners. And of course, is no stranger to the rain. There won't be any DRS available in these conditions, but the Wellington and Hangar Straights are still good opportunities to tuck into the slipstream and make a pass. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel, and Perez, Ricciardo, Sainz, Norris, and Lance Stroll, Ocon, Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, and Giovinazzi, Aitken, Albon, Roman Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen, Magnussen, Russell, Latifi and Thomas. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Alright, so here we are then on the grid to start the British Grand Prix, and the only saving grace that I've got is that we do have a majority of the race is going to be a wet race with a dry patch at the end. Of course, in Canada, we will wrap it in the wet, so let's see if we can be the same here again today. So here we are on the grid then, we've got 5 red lights, and it's lights out. We go here to start the British Grand Prix, and let's see if we can get a good start. A little bit too much wheel spin, unfortunately, off the start line there. As we go in towards first corner, though, we get a great run versus Nicholas Latifi, and I've got a break very suddenly there. Kevin Magnussen, very, very tight to the inside curb there, and unfortunately, no places gained off the start, but we've got a very nice wide line in towards this next portion of the track, and George Russell very, very tight there in terms of allowing some space, but we do manage to get past him, and we're going to get past Romain Grosjean in due course here. Alex Albon is next on our hit list, of course our rival actually, I believe now, in this career mode, which is quite interesting. He's obviously taken a penalty for some engine components as we now fight with Grosjean. A little bit of a side pod contact there between myself and Grosjean. Had to back out of the throttle and back away from Roman. Oh, we were spinning out and going straight into the wall now. We're going to try and see if we can press on to the back of Alex Albon and basically just see if our wet pace is any better than our dry running. Because if our wet running is not going to be very, very quick, well, quite frankly, I might as well go cry in the bin, but let's see what we can do now. Albon trying to go down the inside of Jack Aitken in towards Stoke corner, into Copse corner, should I say? Not Stoke, got that wrong, lol. But as you can see, we get a warning for track extension there, as we got caught by a bit of dirty air through there, and of course in the wet conditions as well, settling ourselves into this Grand Prix now. A little bit unnervy through there. Grosjean trying to go through towards Beckett, so now as we go on to the straight, and we're going to now try and press onto the back of my teammate Aitken here as we now use up a lot of our ERS. Jack Aitken clearly not using that ERS. We're gaining on Aitken, getting closer, getting much, much closer, down the inside of Jack Aitken, and up into 16th place now in the British Grand Prix, and we can try and make some more progress onto the back of Alex Albon now, who's our next target, and hopefully we could try and potentially stick with Albon and just pass all the cars that he passes. That's my plan anyway. Hamilton sets the fast lap of the race so far as one of the Renault cars is coming in on a stop here at the end of the first lap. It's Daniel Ricciardo, so he's taken some front wing damage then, and that means that he's going to have to stay out a little bit longer. On to lap 6 of the Grand Prix, and my plan of sticking with Jack Aitken, Alex Albon, as we get a very big slap of oversteer there on the exit of Stoke corner, and Jack Aitken retakes P15 then in the British Grand Prix, and that was not part of my plan, but as I was saying earlier, my plan was to stick with Alex Albon and pass all the cars that he was passing. On to lap 7 of the Grand Prix, and you can see the gap to myself and Albon is 6.2 seconds, basically confirming that my pace around Silverstone is quite frankly worse than teaching your baby to set fire to its Barbie dolls. That's my analogy of that. Why was that the first thing that came to my head? Anyway, pressing onwards now here, we're going to see if we can try and pursue onto the back of Aitken again, but again we get caught on the curb there. Back end slides are so much correction has to go on, and Raikkonen there has hit the back of our car, so Kimi Raikkonen takes major front wing damage there as we go now in towards Luffield now, Brooklyn to Luffield there, and yeah, had to do so much correcting on the car as through the before we just started the Wellington Straight. Unfortunately, I just lost all amounts of grip, but now onto lap 13 of the Grand Prix, and the only consolation I had is that I was able to keep up with Romain Grosjean and Jack Aitken in this stage of the race. They're only 1.8 seconds back, and obviously shout out to not using shout out to Pit Assist for allowing me to just blast into the pit lane like that. Spoilers alert, it doesn't really give me that much time in the end. But now as we go towards into the pits, we're now going to go onto the intermediate tyres. I was going to try and see if I could stretch it out and maybe go onto the soft tyres at the end of the race, but it was going to take too long until the dry tyres were going to come into any form of effect. So I felt like I needed to come in, get a fresh set of inters on, and get back on with the Grand Prix itself. It's a 3.1 second pit stop. Annoyingly, if I'd had a 1.9 second pit stop, you Koreans, we could have been out in front of Grosjean, but we're not. So we'll put that into perspective. I also increased the front wing up to 7. I did initially have it on 5. I upped it to 7 to give me a bit more front end. I felt like I was lacking a little bit. So I thought maybe, just maybe, that would make all the difference. And you can see that that gap to myself and Grosjean is going to go out the window. We're going to breeze up to the back of him and overtake him in quite spectacular fashion as we now press on. A little bit of back end there, sliding around, but we just need to get used to the car. Lap 20 the Grand Prix, and that gap to myself and Romain Grosjean is 9.8 seconds. That plan didn't work, basically. My pace was absolutely dreadful in this middle stint. My tyres are overheating. Magnussen's catching up to me at a vast rate of knots. And quite frankly, this just showcased that I had absolutely nothing in terms of my pace. And you can see there, my front right was on 96 degrees, as if you might be thinking that I was doing donuts for a little bit. No, I was driving normally. I just managed to overheat my fronts that badly because I put that much front grip on. I should have just left the front wing angle alone, but I wanted to try and just do something, and it didn't work. We're coming in now for a set of soft tyres. Nobody else is coming in, actually, for a stop here. So we might just benefit from this, actually. We've only got 5 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and if everybody stays out on the intermediate compound tyres, we could just be in with a shout of pulling off a dreamy comeback in this Grand Prix. So, yeah, stay tuned, lads. We might be in for an absolute banger of a finish as we now go and exit the pit lane here and get on with our Grand Prix. And let's see if what we are trying to do makes any form of impact now as we press onwards here and just try to get a feel for the circuit now in these dry conditions. And unfortunately, in that middle stint, there was just nothing ready to show at all. I was losing time to the guys in front. The guys behind me were closing slightly, and then quite a lot at the end of the stint. But I had such a big gap to them anyway that it just didn't make any form of a difference. And now, obviously, I'm just sort of, well, I'm in my own little bubble here. So we're pressing onwards now. Can't remember if I'm right on board for the rest of this lap or not. But we're going to keep moving on with the game. But you can see that we are catching the back markers at quite considerable pace. But unfortunately, my plan... Oh, Sebastian Vettel is out of this British Grand Prix. So my teammate Aiken pits then. As you can see, here is Sebastian Vettel now. And it looks like a mechanical failure here has cost Seb... I don't believe he's in the lead of the Grand Prix, but that has cost Seb a race finish here at the British Grand Prix. He pulls over to the side of the circuit. As for me, though, lap 26 of the Grand Prix, yeah, that race was dead. I was basically... all I'll say is shout out to Sam for being in a party chat with me whilst I was doing this Grand Prix. Otherwise, this would have been the most... I would have probably fallen asleep. I'm not going to lie, I probably would have just gone to bed. It was actually late as well. I ended up going to bed after this. But yeah, shout out to Sam for, well, actually being able to talk to somebody whilst recording this because I was bored. Yeah, that was a really, really awful race. Albon gets driver of the day, as you can see on your screens right there. But for us, what I'm going to show you in a second is going to be the fastest lap of all of the drivers, because I'm putting it out there. Either the AIs are really poorly programmed around different circuits, or the AIs are really poorly programmed at Silverstone. I don't know which one it is, but you'll see in just in a moment's time. So as you can see, Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix ahead of Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas, who the 3 drivers themselves, I believe, are actually going to be the top 3 in the championship this year. But of course, that's just my assumption there. As Lewis Hamilton bashes that bottle and sprays it around everywhere. Verstappen, again, you know, putting a cheeky bit down his neck, trying to get him a cheeky little bit wet and sticky. But as you can see now, is that big old James on the podium? Oh, yes, James. Shout out to him, my friend. Yeah, but here's what I wanted to look at, right? So the fastest lap was a 125.4. Aiken a 127.2. My fastest lap was a 129.3. I was 5 seconds a lap slower. And again, on the dry tyres, I felt comfortable. This is what makes no sense. I was on average 3 to 4, maximum 5 seconds a lap slower than the AIs when we pitted for dry tyres. It makes no sense. It doesn't. I don't know how I didn't change the AI. In Austria, it was 105. Here in Silverstone, it was 105. And somehow the AIs, like I said, are ridiculously overpowered. And I didn't know what to do about it. So yeah, that really puzzled my brain. And we ended up having a shocking Grand Prix, and I'm glad it's over. In terms of feeling comfortable with the wet weather, I mean, yeah, until I changed my front wing. So I thought I'd just be, a bit cheeky and pretty much just boost my team acclaim, because I knew my team acclaim would be going downwards because of that, and I actually didn't answer that last question. And she's now going to try and tell me, like you said then, there's some work to do back at the factory. Quite frankly, there's some work to do with your interviewing skills, okay? You're interviewing a North Korean god. So let's take that into perspective. But as you can see, rivalry breakdown versus myself and Albon. Albon wins that round, basically. And he is now 9-7 clear of myself, as I am clenching my fists pretty much in disgust there. But as you can see, our team acclaim is going to go up ever so slightly. And then I believe it's going to go, it could go down a little bit, actually, as well. Because, of course, we didn't really have a good Grand Prix weekend in general. It actually stays the same there. Annoyingly as well for the finances, that didn't really help. We didn't qualify P10 or better, and we didn't finish in the top 10 either. So we didn't really get a lot of payout either, which is why these difficult challenges that I'm giving myself, as fun as it is to have these, a finish in the top 10 and stuff like that, if we have bad weekends like that, it really does hamper not only the team acclaim, but also our financial income as well. So we really need to look at that for the future. Going back into the team headquarters now, we can now basically just set our sights on the next round at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which again probably is not going to be a brilliant circuit for our car. So we'll have to see how we do around there, but maybe, just maybe, we'll have a better time with it. And as you can see, we are all done on this front. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode video here for the British Grand Prix. Apologies obviously that the episode isn't really very long. Unfortunately that nothing happened. It was just such a dead race. And we go ahead and we make another upgrade in the facilities, more resource point generation for the powertrain side of things now to try and continue to push forward with development, because I think that's where we're lacking the most. But if you have enjoyed today's episode, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. I believe I make a front aero upgrade because I felt like I was lacking a bit of front downforce and we just needed that to go onto the car, which is a bit of a mistake because my chassis is weaker, but hey ho, I've just done it now. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care all. Peace.